Italian Wine Podcast. Chin Chin with Italian wine people.
Hello, my name is Monty Waldin. I'm with Lamberto Frescobaldi, from one of the most famous families in Italy. I mean, how far does your winemaking family go back to?
Oh my God, it goes back to 1300. The story of my family begins around the year 1000, and then in the 1100 they bought the land where our home is in Florence, and became traders, bankers, and then they started to buy land in the 1300 and started to produce wine. And initially it was south of Florence in the area called Val di Pesa, so really rolling hills. And then over time they've been to Bordeaux, then to England, and then back in Italy. So we have an amazing archive in our family with letters. For example, Henry VIII wrote a letter ordering wines to the Frescobaldis, and then...
So you're basically responsible, your wine was responsible for us growing up with the Reformation when Henry VIII left the church, the Catholic Church. It's all down to your wine.
I guess so.
Too much fun with all his lovers. Okay, so tell me, one of your famous estates is Castello di Nipozzano. Tell us a little bit about that.
Castello di Nipozzano is it's very unique, especially for me, because every estate we own, they have something unique. I grew up there, so I have to remember the first time that I was stealing bikes and motorbikes from workers and driving around Nipozzano. We are east of Florence, only 20 miles east of Florence, in a fairly hilly area. It starts to be quite hilly. And the home where I grew up and lived, we had the cellar, so I remember crashing time and then going in the cellar and tasting the wine, and unfortunately getting to know quite early. I think I was 6 years old. I understood that wine had to be drunk in moderation, because I remember they came in and picked a friend of mine and myself, and we were totally trashed.
At the age of 6?
At the age of 6.
So hang on, you were drinking illegally, you were stealing bikes. I mean, How didn't you end up in jail?
Almost. But I drank because, Monty, that in the month of June, when there was the wheat harvest, it was always a big feast, because wheat means bread. And so this was this big event, and the workers, they always had a big lunch. And I can't remember, but I was told going there and with these people, and they gave me to me and my friend wine. And then the manager came and found me and my friend, that we were almost knocked off by all this wine, and they went up to these people and said, "Why the hell you gave wine to these kids?" And this guy looked at him and said, "I couldn't give water to the son of my boss." So that was the beginning.
That's a great line. That's a great excuse, but it's a great line. Now, what about animals there? Do you have any animals? Was it very polycultural?
Of course, we had horses, we had cows. I remember going and the evening collecting the fresh milk. It was a little bit like living in medieval times. These homes where we had conigli, rabbits, we had dogs and cats, and it was quite special, I must say.
Do you miss that a little bit? This kind of pre-technology era. Like you probably had a bath. You probably had a bath in a tin bath. You're on the floor. Was that right? Heated by the fire. Was that right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Definitely. But I think that when you have a good time, you always miss what is in the past, especially because you always remember the good things. And but I also remember that my home in the winter, it was damn cold, but we actually survived very nicely. And those things, they are the things that you grew up with them, you change with them, and you actually become even more respectful of what you have these days.
So you went off to study wine, and where did you go? Did you study in Italy, or?
When I was in high school, I already knew I wanted to study agriculture. because I had the idea of this world that you actually don't only produce wine, but you also have olive trees and you have wheat and you have a real farm.
A mixed farm, yeah.
And I remember going and joining the Agricultural University of Florence. And that was in the mid-80s. And at that time, there was not really a wine program. There was a grape transformation classes. That was not even a real exam.
So when you say grape transfer, you mean basically crushing the grapes and converting them into wine,
exactly.
Yeah? Okay.
So I think that we were in the cradle, we are in Florence, in the cradle of Chianti, and in mid-80s there was not really an enological school. So at that point, my father gave me this opportunity to go to California, very far away from Florence. A different world. My English was okay, not terrific, but okay. And it's something that really changed my whole perspective. I started to see the world of wine, because when you are raised in a wine family, often you only see what you produce. Instead, when you step out, you actually see a lot of other people that are producing something that is actually very good. And actually, sometimes you actually like it more than what you were producing. And then I had another great opportunity. When I was in Davis, I looked for, in June is my birthday, I was looking for some Frescobaldi wine, so I started to search them, and I bumped into a gentleman called Darrell Corti, and that he had an amazing shop in Sacramento. And I went up to him in the cellar of this big shop. I saw cases and cases of Frescobaldi. So I was 23 years old or 22, something like that. And I went up to him and I said, I see a lot of Frescobaldi wine. Why do you have so many cases of you? And he looks at me and says, do you think it's easy to sell that wine? And I said, oh my God, I don't know. Hello, I'm Mr. Frescobaldi. And we started chatting. And after he said, would you like to work for me? And I said, look, I'm studying. Yeah, okay, I'm happy enough to have you on Saturday. So I started working on Saturday from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. And also Darrell gave me, with us together with all the staff, gave me the opportunity, it was every Thursday evening, to taste when the shop was closing. I was driving from Davis there, and he gave me the opportunity to taste amazing things. He looked at me and said, have you ever tasted Chateau Margaux? I had no idea. Chateau Margaux. When you're 20, you don't have the budget and you have the idea. He was opening these bottles for me and the staff, for the staff, and also myself while I was there. And I started to taste wine from France, from South America. I remember from Georgia, Russia, from Spain, from various places of Italy. And I said, my God, how many good things are around the world. Now I'm starting to understand why there is such a great excitement with wine, because wine, when is a good wine, is able to tell you the story from where it comes from, and that is all about, I think, wine. And of course, it's lovely to be up there, to be the number one wine of the world. But there are, I think, a number of number one wines of the world, because all of those wines that they are able to capture the spirit of the soil, of the place, of the people, and put them in a glass, all of them are number ones.
It's funny when you talk about spirit of the soil. I mean, you are the largest Castelgiocondo. Your Castelgiocondo estate in Montalcino is the largest organic estate in Montalcino. I mean, how many hectares have you got there?
Now, in vineyard, we are over 274 to be precise.
Right, so that's about, in acres, that's about 600 acres, yeah? Yeah, okay, so 6.5, 700, almost 700. The spirit of the soil, I mean, do you think there is a trend now to be much more attentive about the farming side of wine?
We began the organic path in 2006. I remember we started with 5 hectares, so 10 acres. And then after a couple of years, we went up to 40 acres, then 100 acres, and then at a certain moment we decided to go the whole estate. The reason was that the wines that we were able to produce, it felt that had a little bit something beyond, something extra. Not extra layer of power, not extra layer of muscles, but complexity. And also a little bit more respectful of the vintage. When you go up to your wine lovers, that they spend a certain amount of money for your bottle, you have to make them really part of your effort and see the differences that there is from one vintage to another. And said this, every vintage has to be good. If not, you have to be strong enough to not to bottle the wine. But when you bottle the wine, you have to really perceive the nuances, the differences that there is from one vintage to another. And this, it's not a weakness, it's actually a strength. And this makes it so more amusing and so more interesting to your love consumers.
So when did you first get, I mean, you obviously grew up at Nipozzano. When did you first arrive at Castelgiocondo?
I was 1974. I was 11 years old. To be very honest, I used to go there with my father for another reason rather than vineyards. The place was large, and the manager there had a Volkswagen, the Beetle. I remember it was a Beetle, 1.3 liter, whitish.
Like Herbie, basically.
Yeah, Herbie. And so I was grabbing this car and driving all day long and having a great time. Actually, my first car ever, it was a Beetle. It was a friend of mine that few months before, with his grandfather in Ontario, Canada, taught me how to drive car, and again, it was a Beetle.
So you're only 13 when you learned how to drive. So you learned to drink at the age of 6. You learned to drive at the age of 11.
Yes.
Okay, I won't ask. There's an obvious next question, which we're really not going to go into here, folks. So what was Castelgiocondo like at that time? Now we said it's beautifully restored and it's sort of pristine. What was it like then?
It was in the middle of nowhere. When, in that time, my father started to do all the renovation and transform land into vineyard, there was not really a place where to stay. So the tractor drivers, they needed a place. All the houses were totally ruined. So he went to a how you say, un circo, and he bought a trailer, and he transformed that trailer half in house and the other house for do the maintenance of the tractors. And that trailer, we yet have it. We keep it in Pomino, and that was the house of those people. Initially, we had tractor drivers from Florence, but then after a few weeks, they went up to my father and they said, Mr. Frescobaldi, payment is good, but unfortunately, we feel unsafe. We're scared. We're in the middle of nowhere and we don't want to work here any longer. So he had to go and hire people from Emilia-Romagna. He took these people from Emilia-Romagna and to keep on going the business. So Castelgiocondo and Montalcino, 1974 up to 1980, it was in the middle of nowhere. You felt uncomfortable at night.
You really felt that unsettled bandit territory?
Yes, indeed.
And wasn't one of the reasons why, when they were discussing building a main road from the north to the south, it could have gone via Montalcino, which would have brought obviously lots of traffic, but also lots of opportunities for jobs. But they built it along the coast, didn't they? So that's why it's remained incredibly isolated.
It remained incredibly isolated. And then things happened, thanks to also people like Mr. Biondisanti. But I remember in the 70s, we were something like 18 wineries. Now there are 250.
Yeah, 200, yeah. But I mean, when you say it was unsafe, you do know how to shoot a rifle. Tell me about how you learned to do that.
But that was, after my studies, I flew back to Italy. My grandmother was a real boss, and she said to me and to all her nephews, guys, when you get at the right age, you have to join the army. Because every good Italian has to work for his country, for his country, and do the service and give back to your country. And so I did the request to join the Carabinieri. The Carabinieri in Italy is the military police, and I did I was happily accepted for the fact that I spoke English and some French. I was stationed in the international airport of Fiumicino together with other carabinieri. The group was 18 people. We had to do anti-terrorismo, against terrorism. I remember we were doing special service for ELAL, TWA, and Pan Am, and it was an amazing experience. The airport, because we had to be careful. ELAL especially was a target those days, and I guess also now. So those 15 months, they really flew away very quickly. I was very tempted to remain in the army.
Do you think your dad would have been disappointed?
Absolutely. My girlfriend, she actually went up to my father and she said, look, Lamberto is thinking of joining the army. And so my father said, after all those studies you did, I would like you to come over and look at the vineyards. We need to do a renovation. And I said, But I'm happy with what I'm doing, and actually, to be very honest, also I'm paid very well. And joining family business, and so he said, "Look, I can't give you a good wage per month because it's family business. Family business is something where you can never be generous, but I'm gonna give it out from my pocket." A little bit more, and that was the deal, and I'm very thankful to him, because then I had the opportunity to renovate the vineyards of Frescobaldi. When you're in the army and you have to be carabinieri, you were very powerful those days.
Because of the political situation at the time, it was very dangerous, wasn't it?
It was dangerous, but at the same time, you were somebody already. It was a good feeling. You are 20. I was 24 years old, but then I had this great opportunity. Initially with that, and then what really, for me, winning a lottery was the joint venture with the Mondavis. That was 1975, being the joint venture with the vineyards in Montalcino, with Tim Mondavi. So I was the county part of the Frescobaldi in Italy, and so dealing with Tim, really that changed the whole my perspective, and also gave me the opportunity to become a little bit more known in my family. And so after, at the end of the 90s, the supervisor that was in charge of Frescobaldi, of the production of Frescobaldi, retired, and so I was appointed to that. And so thanks to my English, to the Mondavis, and to the quality that Luce delivered, I was then appointed to Frescobaldi. Frescobaldi was a little bit more of a task, and to change it around, I'm still working on it.
But I mean, the fact that you'd worked in America gives you enormous credibility, doesn't it? And the fact that you've actually gone there, lived there, studied there, dealt with the culture and accepted the culture, and they've accepted you. I mean, that was quite rare at the time, because I think Italy sometimes accused, or was in those days, of being a little bit inward-looking.
Absolutely. Also, economically, Italy was always quite, I would say, successful on exporting, but because we were every now and then we had inflation, and so the lira was very weak, and so we could export very efficiently. But to send kids abroad, it was actually very expensive, and I must say I have to thank again to my parents, my father and my mother, that they were able to send me abroad.
I mean, I've just worked out you are an enologist. Your army police experience, you were a lieutenant, and you're also a marquis, aren't you?
I didn't do anything special, to be very honest, Monty. But when you get there, you have to, I think the most important thing is to work hard every day, to have a healthy company, to have a good amount of employees, hopefully to make them to be responsible and happy of what they're doing. Then you have to be responsible also for them and for their family. I think that this is the most important thing.
What's your next challenge?
But the next challenge, it's always the challenge. Is always around the corner. I think that over the last few years, one great challenge for me was to do a wine in a jail, in an island off the coast of Tuscany. It's a small jail island, and to have these people work. The project is called Gorgona, is the name of the island.
So it's a prison on the island of Gorgona.
It's a prison on the island of Gorgona. Since in 2012, been working there, and last year I planted an extra acre and a half of vineyard. Overall, now they're almost 4 acres, so it's a tiny project. But the white wine we produce there, I must say, it's very special. It's very unique.
What's the grape variety?
The grape varieties are two. It's Ansonica, that is planted from Sicily up to the coast of Tuscany, and Vermentino. The cellar is there. It's in the island, and the inmates are so responsible of this project. We've hired them. They get a wage. I think it's giving them an opportunity to learn something, but to even more than learning something, to be again passionate about working. Because to work, when you start working for a number of years, then it's quite difficult to start again. And that's an opportunity. These people that are working there, we are giving them an opportunity for the future, then to go on someplace else and work, or also for us.
I mean, when you go there, I mean, obviously you don't call yourself a marquis, but obviously you're very well educated, very well travelled man. Do they respect you for what you're doing just on a human level, or do they still kind of maybe slightly suspect you that he's an aristocrat, or do they just accept you as one of them?
Well, look, I tell you a story. When I went there, it was First time was August the 3rd, 2012. I started going there pretty often. And to get there, you have to go with the police. Leaves at 8 o'clock in the morning sharp from Livorno. An hour and 20 minutes to go there. And I was going in and out, almost once every 20 days. And once in May, there were the inmates. A couple of them came up to me and looked at me and they said, "But are you Mr. Frescobaldi?" And I said, "Yeah, I guess so." Somebody said that, yes. And because I never said to them, "Hello, I'm Mr." I never presented myself. It was hello, and that was it. And so they looked at me and said, "We thought he was much an older person than you." And I said, "It will happen. Don't worry. It will happen one day. I'm going to get there." And so I was never snobbish about it, or that's quite a very wrong approach with life. And they felt that I was part of them. And last 2 years ago, I presented the wine. Was June 27, is my birthday, and I decided to go there to present that. I took my family, my wife, my kids, and also the director of the jail, Mr. Mazzerbo. His birthday was also June 27. We opened a few bottles of Gorgona, and we shared them with all the inmates. We said, very soon, some of you are going to be out. You have to go on and do what it has to be done right. There is so much satisfaction in life when you're able to put your foot in the right direction. And sometimes it's difficult, but the difficult things, they give you much more satisfaction than the easy way.
Lamberto, it's absolutely fantastic talking to you. Very, very interesting on many, many levels. And I hope we can have another conversation at some stage in the future. Thank you very much.
I look forward to having you in Nipozzano or Pomino or all the other beautiful estates.
Thanks, Lamberto. You can show me how to milk cows.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Follow us at Italian Wine Podcast on Facebook.